She wore another man's scent. I mix desire for a living. People think perfumers deal in flowers, but we deal in memories. Hands grazing a banister, a stranger's laugh on a staircase, the way the city smells right after it gives up and rains. Give me alcohol and oils and I can make you want yesterday so badly you'll pay anything to taste it again. My studio is 2 rooms above a locksmith on a crooked street where the asphalt remembers horses. Bottles line the walls like quiet judges. Amber, vetiver, iris, benzoin, cedar. At noon they give off a faint chorus, like a choir hum you feel in your ribs. I keep a velvet chair near the window for clients who want to look like muses, and a narrow sink that never quite drains, and a fan that respects no one. The whole place is a secret that's been told too well. My wife Leah used to love it here. She'd roll in after a campaign meeting, agency tote, red lipstick, 1,000-yard email stare, and fold herself into the velvet like a carnation being persuasive. "Make me something," she'd say, and I would, dabbing aldehydes at her pulse, coaxing heat with skin, watching the note bloom behind her ear. She'd steal my scarf because it smelled like me and winter. We were a good advertisement for vows in small apartments. Then something shifted. Not exploded, shifted. Leah began collecting late nights the way some people collect excuses, art openings that had to be seen, dinners that went long, an influencer who required hand-holding through an existential crisis best solved with sleep and water. She started coming home with a new perfume shadowing the one I made her, a slick thing engineered to be noticed. It wasn't mine. And under the designer musk, something else rode in quietly, a cologne I'd never worn. Clean, sharp, not cheap. It sat at the back of my throat like a comma. I didn't ask. I did what chemists do. I took notes. She'd hug me in the kitchen and say, "You're overthinking," and I'd pretend to believe her. I steered my nose toward work. A small magazine wanted a feature on intimate scents, which felt like being asked to describe a dance with the lights on. I said yes because bills and because it meant collaborating with the photographer they'd assigned, someone whose portfolio made metal look like it had a past. Her name was Nika. She arrived at my door in a slate-gray dress that knew things about drape and gravity, camera bag digging into one shoulder, hair pinned up in defiance of humidity. She shook my hand like she planned to keep it. "You must be Daniel," she said. Her voice had a grip, too, low, a little husky, like she'd been laughing at something the room wasn't invited to hear. "I must be," I said. "Come listen to the bottles." She walked the shelves, reading labels aloud as if inviting a spell to perform itself. Orris, labdanum, cardamom. She looked at me over her shoulder, brow lifted. "If I faint, catch me near the bergamot." We worked until the light turned the street to silk. She shot my hands measuring drops over a beaker, the fan ruffling test strips like flirtation, the tiny spoon that looks like a lark's tongue. Between frames, she asked questions that felt like compliments. What makes a perfume erotic? Where do you place it if you want to keep a secret and still have it found? I could have given her the textbook answers. Lower pulse points for warmth, hair because it retains. But the truth was more impolite. "Wherever you're willing to be read," I said. The corner of her mouth agreed. At lunch I made coffee on the little stove that pretends it's Paris. She leaned against the counter, heel balanced on the stool rung, and watched me stir sugar until the spoon clinked a permission. The air between us rehearsed words neither of us said. I became aware of my own wrist like it was new. The card charge hit that afternoon, basements in Basel. A speakeasy hiding behind a plant shop, the kind of place that invents passwords to sell your own passed back to you as mood lighting. I know the florist. I buy botanicals from her when I want to smell like spring without the pollen. I stared at the number like it would tell me how loud the live band was. Then I did what cowards and husbands do. I stayed quiet and I waited. Waiting doesn't smell like anything until it's over. Then you pick up a glass, and the rim holds a ghost. 2 days later, my feet took me to the flower shop on their own. The bell above the door said bedroom voice. I asked for violets I didn't need, paid with a smile that lied poorly, and slid a bouquet of fake ivy aside with my hip. The door behind it opened onto a staircase where a man heavier than velvet guarded a menu like a passport. He let me pass after I said vermouth, because there's always a word the room believes. Basements and basil was light reflecting on light. Brass, green, faces pretending to mind their own business. I didn't like it instantly, which means it was doing its job. I found Leah with my nose before my eyes found her. The designer musk. The not mine cologne. Her head tipped back at someone's joke. The man opposite her wore a suit whose seams understood ambition. His hand rested on the table in that proprietary way only men without wives or with more than one try, 2 fingers near her wrist like he was measuring a pulse he thought he owned. Leah's laugh slid out and shimmered, and if I'd been a stranger it would have charmed me. As her husband it clocked out something in me I hadn't expected to be ready to retire. I didn't interrupt. There are stages in the theater of betrayal, and I arrived during applause. I watched until the trumpet entered. Then I left, taking the stairs too fast because oxygen suddenly mattered. Back at the studio, Nika texted to ask if she could stop by with contact sheets. I said yes because I was weak to her voice, and the promise of being seen in the way lenses do truth with edits. 10 minutes later, she was in my doorway, rain dampening the shoulders of her dress in a way the lighting director of my worst decisions would overuse. She shook out her hair, rubbed her temples, and looked at me without the way people often decorate looking. "Tell me you're okay," she said. No smile performed at the end of the sentence, no softening to make it palatable. "I came home with flowers and left with proof," I said. Nika exhaled slowly and set her bag on the table. "Basements and basil. Your nose is dangerous." "It's what I've got." She lifted the camera, then lowered it. "Do you want to be alone?" "I don't want to be lied to by the room." She moved closer and did something so simple it reset the evening. She took my hand, turned it, and pressed her thumb to the spot where a good pulse hides. Her skin was warm from the rain. "Still here," she said. What we did next was as careful as it was reckless. She set the camera aside. I turned down the fan. We stood facing each other, the city softening under the windows, and when she rose on her toes the way women do when the ground is a suggestion, I met her half a breath away and then all the way. Our mouths found a truth that didn't require a transcript. We didn't hurry. The kiss stayed honest, the kind that would pass any platform standards and still make an adult swallow. Her fingers traced my jaw, paused at the hinge like a carpenter admiring a hinge, then slid to the back of my neck where heat remembers itself. I let my hand rest on her waist where the fabric said yes without words. When we broke, we didn't step back. We leaned our foreheads together because we had earned the quiet. "I won't be your alibi," Nika said softly. "I don't want one," I said. "I want a mirror." "Then look," she said, and it felt like permission to breathe. The next morning Leah made eggs in a shirt that wasn't mine. She poured coffee with the politeness people weaponize when they're tired of pretending to care. "I'm swamped tonight," she said. "Don't wait up." "I won't," I said, and the chair heard the double meaning and winced. I didn't throw anything. I didn't call anyone names. I went to work early and made something beautiful out of things that used to be sticky resins and leaves. The magazine feature gave our collaboration a deadline and shape. We called the fragrance Glass Hour, transparent at the top, warm at the heart, dark underneath. Nika filmed my hands resting the dropper against the bottle lip, the slow thread of liquid finding itself. She had me dab the first dilution on my wrist, then took my hand in both of hers, bringing it close to her mouth without touching. She breathed in, eyes closing like curtains. "Tell me what I'm supposed to feel," she murmured. "I won't," I said. "You tell me." She smiled small, the kind of smile that starts a scene, and said, "Like standing behind someone you shouldn't be standing behind." "Then it's working," I said. We tested dry downs on cards and skin, lining them along the table like little flags of allegiance. When she turned and her shoulder touched my chest, the room understood consent without anyone telling it what to do. We didn't do anything the city could fine us for. But I can tell you there are parts of the body where perfume becomes a confession. The inner elbow, the hollow at the throat, the place behind the knee where heat is modest and memory raucous. I placed scent there with a fingertip and gravity, and she shivered once, the pure kind that has nothing to do with cold. She answered by tracing my wrist bone slowly with the back of her nail, and my breath wrote its own caption. Leah's confession arrived by accident, a group photo from a gallery opening, forwarded by a mutual friend with no taste for discretion. There she was, my wife, laughing into a man's shoulder while his hand rested low in a way that made the photographer's lens feel complicit. The caption tagged him, Marco. I searched out of masochism. Real estate with an art habit. Symposium speeches about curation as community. Teeth like a plan. The gallery announced a new show and a party. Leah RSVP'd with a dress that would cause a small flood if a fire broke out. She asked if I would come because we were still us, aren't we? I said yes because I wanted to see how the room would pretend not to know. If revenge were a smell, it would be clean. I built something for the opening, our glass hour, amplified into air. Nika helped me set slim diffusers behind the gallery's damp velvet drapes near the AC returns. Nobody noticed the bottles. People never do when they are dressed to be noticed themselves. I told myself it wasn't punishment, it was a demonstration. Let the night smell like the truth. It worked too well. The scent hovered at shoulder height like a rumor, then settled onto skin. You could see couples tilt their heads to one another as if they just remembered a hotel they liked. Marco greeted donors with his hand and reporters with his eyes. When Leah stepped into the drift of our fragrance, she stopped mid-sentence as if someone had called her childhood nickname. She looked over the room and saw me, then saw me seeing her, and for a heartbeat I think she understood that I had turned the air into a mirror. We found a quiet corner near a sculpture made of cables trying to be graceful. Leah opened her mouth to apologize or lie. I honestly believe she hadn't decided which. I saved us both an essay. "It's called Glass Hour," I said. "You're breathing it." She closed her eyes. When she opened them, they were shiny and practical. "How long have you known?" "Long enough to count the days by the smell of your hair." Was I that careless? "Perfume is generous," I said. "It tells the truth on contact." She nodded once, not conceding, not denying, just storing the line away for a breakfast story years from now. "Is there someone else?" she asked, "because we all need the symmetry even when we don't deserve it." "There is someone honest," I said. "Then go be honest," she said. And for a second we were the two people we used to be, standing on a rug too small for our future, holding hands like parachute cords. She squeezed my fingers once, a habit, a benediction, and went to find a man whose cologne had been living rent-free in my house. I didn't make a speech. I left before the warm wine turned cruel. Outside, the night smelled like rain rehearsing. Nika was waiting half a block away, leaning against a wall that had been confessing things for decades. She looked up when she heard my steps. The lamplight did the thing lamplight is paid to do. "Well," she asked. "It's over," I said, and didn't add an beginning because the city hates cliches, even when they're correct. She took my hand, turned it, pressed her thumb to the pulse point like she had the first night. "Still here," she said again, and I laughed because the line didn't need improvement. We didn't run. We didn't stage a kiss for anyone's window. We walked to my studio slowly, letting the street perform itself, and went upstairs to a room that smelled like bergamot and second chances. I made tea. She kicked off her shoes. We stood at the window and watched two strangers on the sidewalk below argue about a cab like it mattered. When we finally touched, it was not a secret, it was a decision. Her mouth found mine and stayed. My hand slid up her back, respectful as urgency can be. We navigated buttons and hairpins with the mutual dexterity of people who want to keep the moment beautiful when tomorrow hears about it. We made a small map of each other and promised to redraw it when needed. Nothing we did would get blurred in a broadcast. Everything we did would make us remember exactly where the air had changed shape around us. In the morning, I signed papers in an office that smelled like toner and lemon. Leah and I divided our life the way you divide a good cake, carefully and with a knife that knows it's sharp. We hugged like cousins. She left wearing a perfume I didn't recognize, and I wished her, sincerely, the courage to stop auditioning for rooms that aren't listening. Glass Hour launched with the magazine spread. The headline called it "A Confession You Can Wear." Orders flooded the inbox. Nika's photographs looked like touch itself: hands, wrists, the hollows that make music, steam caught in light. The last frame showed my fingers and a bottle and her reflection behind the glass, blurry but certain. People wrote to say the scent reminded them of first apartments, of slow-declared affection, of a night when the rain announced itself on fire escapes. Some wrote to say it made them honest by accident. We asked for no apologies. Now when a client settles into the velvet chair and asks me for something a little dangerous, but we have brunch with his parents, I smile and say we can make danger polite. I dab a little onto a strip, wave it once, place it in their palm. On the inner wrist, I say. Then the throat if you're brave. And if you need to remember who you are, behind the knee where the heat knows your name. They laugh and blush and breathe in, and sometimes I see a decision happen right there, behind the eyes. I bottle it. I send them into a city that will make them prove it. At night, if the air is behaving, the studio smells like what it took to get here. Citrus lifted, wood warmed, a hint of smoke that might be from the street or from what we know better than to burn. Nika sits on the sill with her feet tucked under her, editing images, drinking tea, looking occasionally at me with the kind of attention that makes mirrors unnecessary. I work with my dropper and my pour sink and my good fan, and when I'm done I cross the room and press a fingertip, just a fingertip, to the inside of her wrist. She closes her eyes. The pulse answers. We don't need passwords anymore. We know where the door is and we know which side we belong to.